welcome to this new software archaeology session. It's hard to say this is real archaeology because today we are going to revisit Unix version 6th from 1975. Even though almost half a century uh, has passed, the system is 50 years old, but it's still a living creature because Unix it's still the bare bones of the internet as we know it. Both Unix and its descendant or Unix-like systems such as Linux are the basic internet infrastructure. So it is, truth be told, um, this is a living creature, right? But this is a very well-known photograph where we can see the creators of Unix, uh, Ken Thompson, seated in front of this type, and and Dennis Ritchie, both the authors, Unix and the C programming language. They created Unix at when they were part of the Bell Telephone Labs at AT&T. So the sixth edition, it used to run on a computer like the one we can see in this photograph. It was P11 from uh, DEC, Digital Equipment Corporation, where it used to have around 48 or 64 kilobytes of primary memory. So the RAM memory was really scarce. Also, they had a hard disk around a half of megabyte. So compared to our current hardware, that was really limited. So how can we run Unix version 6 um, on any modern operating system? Well, what the magic for this it's the SIMH. This is a piece of software that actually emulates a huge number of ancient computers, from the famous Altair, the first home computer ever, to DEX PDP, among many others. So we will be using SIMH in order to emulate the original hardware. From where the original tapes, installation tapes for the version 6 are still available, luckily. So in order to run Unix version 6, it's a matter of patiently following this recipe that can be found in this page. I'm gonna add the links to the video description later on, right? I will also leave the repository when anyone can check out a few files in order to avoid doing this long following this recipe and just reproducing the experience of running the system right away, right? So if you check out that Git repo, you will end up having the same set of files I have here, right? The boot.ini is the file that's important, is the running configuration for PDP 11 environment. So in order uh, to turn on that PDP imaginary, we need to type PDP 11 and provide the .ini file. And there we are. Then we need to select the kernel we want to bootstrap, and off we go. There we are already logged into the system. I followed the recipe. There's also some steps for recompiling the kernel. It was particularly useful in order to emulate many uh, um, different terminals connected to the system. So we can emulate many users using the system at the same time. So the first impression once you log in is that this is pretty similar to a modern Unix file system. The the hierarchical file system was one of the features that were truly innovative for the 70s when Unix was released. Particularly this idea of creating a nested trees following a tree structure from the root file system, it was really powerful back in the day, and still it is, but we are so much used to it that maybe we don't realize, right? If we take a look at the root directory, there's a couple of files. Oops. In the root directory, I don't have a means to correct what I typed wrongly. Oops. There's a couple of files that are currently the system kernel. One was the original and the other one was the one we have recompiled. But take a look at the size of them. They are around 30 kilobytes of size. Something really small, but as we said, the PDP-11 had a little amount of memory. So if we go to the first of all, what kind of shell are we running? This is not bash. This is not the Bourne shell. The Bourne shell was included on the 7th, that it was the upcoming edition. The 6th edition was still using Ken Thompson's shell, a much simpler one, and that's the reason why, for instance, cd command didn't exist. We need to use chdir, for instance, to go here. If we take a look, the RC files is where the init starts, the system daemons. The PS tool similar. The RC file, it's starting cron daemon. The cron daemon, it's running. Let's try to see. You can see the date. It was originally set up in 1975. Um, the VI editor didn't exist yet, so we got to deal with uh, the ed editor. Ed was a line-oriented editor. So, and the reason why, because of those huge and noisy teletypes worked on on a line basis. So Ed was previous to the first CRT, right? So if we take a look at the cron tab that was located here, let's print the whole file. I set up this entry, but I'm not sure. Let's see what time is it. Okay, we will need to modify a little bit. Let's copy this. Cron tab. We will delete this line, and I think I will need to add. Let's try. I'm not sure if star slash the minutes used to work back then. I doubt it worked. So let's try this. Let's try 45, 48, 50, and then 4 stars. Date.log. If I'm lucky, this file is saved. Let's see. But in order for cron tab to reload, we need to send one signal hang up to the cron bit that it's the number 9. Let's see if cron is still running. Okay, number 9. Yeah, it was restarted. You see that it was previously this memory address, and now it's running, starting on a different address. So if you're lucky, in a few minutes, maybe it will create those entries, right? Let me check. Oops. Live cron tab. The next execution should be 11:45. Okay. In the meantime, we can connect with different users to simulate that different user were actually using the same system. I will telnet into it. Here, and this is kind of funny. Take a look at how the who am I command was a 3-word command. Well, nowadays is something like this, but if we type who, we'll see that a couple of users are currently logged in. So while cron tab does we can take a look. This won't work. Let's add a brand new user to the system. We need to edit the tc pass wd file. Let's check. Oops. This is the whole content. See, by default, Ken's user was there. Then I added a few more. So let's a new one called, I don't know, APT. No password for time being. User ID number 9. Oops. I think that won't work, but no. I'm going to try to. Let's do it again. Add a new line. APT. No password. User ID 9. Group 1. And the home directory. If I'm lucky now. Okay. I'm gonna create the user apt directory. Every time I type something wrong, I cannot correct it. Because the terminal seems to be different. Okay. And now we'll need to add for that user. As you see, back in the time, the security wasn't a concern, maybe, but we need to type the password in the clear. Let's do it. And the password. If we take a look at the etc passwd file, now the password is hashed. So if we go to another terminal, let's log in apt, off we go. Okay. So let's go back to root, and let's take a look at the tmp directory. It seems you can see that cron has done its job, and the log file was updated at 11:48 as it was set up in the cron tab. Let's see the cron tab. We had set it up at 45, so it is running. As we see, the cron is a really ancient tool, and it worked pretty much similar as it works nowadays. what we can see that, for instance, another truly innovative idea Unix introduced was the pipelines and redirections. As we can see, all of that, it was already available in version 6. Let's take a look. Here I've got an order file containing words, right? But we can redirect the input sort and we've got it ordered, alphabetically ordered. We can also, let's try to do that to avoid my usual typos, but we've got here ravioli repeated, so maybe we can pipe it to unique. We've got a single ravioli. So the same old tools were already there, right? We can maybe do some math. If I type correctly, of course. And pipe it to the calculator. We've got an 8, as it was expected. Another tools, for instance, that still exist, they aren't used much frequently. They have lost their part of their utility, but we could we can send some mail to another users. I did something wrong, of course. Every time I use the backspace, but the mail should have sent. There's also another tool that it was right, I believe. Okay, so let's go to the apt user, and here we've got the message. You've got an email right on apt's console, and if he or she checks his mail, he has received the email, right? Many different and very well the tools we know where they were already there, right? Really interesting is that along with the binaries for running the system, the original tapes also included the source code. So if we take a look at this directory, we will find many different programs that written in C, right? For instance, if we take a look, grep, I typed something wrong, I believe. Yeah, it was user source S1. And there we have the original grep source code. Along with the source code, also the development tools were bundled into the system. So there are compilers for many different languages, right? But we will soon see the 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 C compiler. If I go back, it's in CD. Here I have super simple C program, just a for loop. And if we compile it, there we have the binary under the name of a.out, and there we have the program running. Also here I wrote a little script using the Ken Thompson's shell. Remember, because Bourne shell it didn't exist yet, right? As you can see, they weren't functions. That only a go-to statement helped us to jump the, the execution from one point to the other by using these kind of labels here, right? So detach command, it didn't exist yet. So this little script tries to mimic the detach command. If we try it, we provide the path to a file. Let me see. There we have file already existed. Gonna let's run Touche once again. There we have the script has run and created this simple file. Other tools also existed. So I find pretty amazing that even though this version, this Unix version, it's almost 46 years old, it still included many tools, and we can feel comfortable, kind of comfortable. I mean, using editor, um, it's not that comfortable, right? But the system, it's pretty similar to to the command line as we know it today, right? Well, this was this kind of imaginary travel back to 1975 to run Unix version 6. There are some versions of that shell, the V6 shell, available. For instance, this developer, J.A. Netzel, ported that version so it can be run on a, on a modern, let's say, in your modern Linux or Unix, you can run this old version of uh, Ken Thompson shell. Let me show you. I'm gonna. This is my Linux box, and I think it was. There we have. This is the Ken Thompson shell, but running on my Debian machine. You can see I cannot do a cd. I need to chd. There we have. Well, this was Unix version 6. Along with the video descriptions, I will leave the links to both the sources and the Git repo with the files for the ones who want to reproduce this experience. Thank you and see you around.